All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we have Adam Morse with us. So welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Tyler? Thanks for
So
having me on.
pumped to have you. Dude, we
Hello,
have
everybody listening.
we have like the best mutual connection. Shout out to Adria Dunn.
Big
Give her like
shout
a
out.
shout out.
ADL, legend.
Yes. So before we like dive in, can you just give us a little intro, a little bit more about you and what you do?
I'm a filmmaker, actor, philanthropist, probably a bunch of other things too, in my professional life. And, my personal time, big soccer fan, Manchester United supporter all my life. Still play a bit of five-a-side from time to time. Love music, I've been making music since I was a kid. Haven't released anything yet. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I'm just an artist, entertainer, storyteller through and through. Always have been, and now I'm trying to find ways to use everything I've learned to help others and pay it forward. Again, shout out to Adria Dunn, very inspired by everything that she's done with the community that she's built and how we connected. And yeah, I recently launched my nonprofit Crystal Vision Foundation at the Cannes Film Festival this year, which is a disability support charity to help aspiring filmmakers who have disabilities or who are differently abled.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And dude, as you were talking, that's what I was thinking is I would say just like creator like through and through. Like everything that you listed off there as far as like work related stuff, it's all like artistry and just creative ventures in general. So, first question I want to ask you is when you were, I love starting interviews off like this, like when you were younger, let's say like middle school, so let's
Mm.
say 12, 13, did you envision yourself doing what you're doing now or completely different?
Yeah, I always, I mean, I was obsessed with movies, from childhood, making my own little films on little, home video cameras and webcams even when I was like a teenager and didn't think too much about um the career as a filmmaker. It was always imagining myself, as an actor because that was always my ambition originally. And just through my fascination with the um you know the technical side of cinema and watching like listening to all the director commentaries of all my DVDs I'd collected from a young age and the making ofs and all the featurettes and just yeah, seeing how it all works on set and then getting my kind of first on-set experience as a runner and production assistant. It gave me that buzz of being on the team and putting everything together from script to screen and yeah, it's definitely be some it's this career and life is something definitely I've been manifesting since then, since whatever you said, middle school to high school, whenever, like all my
Was
life.
it even before then, or is that when it started, you would say?
I think it probably it's cliche, but Star Wars was the experience going to see that in cinema. I think I was 6 years old. It was a remastered re-release when they did all of those in the 90s, and I was like 6 years old when I saw Star Wars in the cinema with my dad, and coming out of that mind blown and just being like, okay, someone, and I knew that had been created by somebody. And so shout out George Lucas. I think he's the reason why so many people are cinephiles or want to aspire to go into filmmaking.
Yeah, I think, and I hope this isn't incorrect, but I think there was a movie that Spielberg just made, and it was about him. And I think his like it starts out, if I remember, I watched it a few months ago, but like he's like a kid and he's in the cinema, and that's where it like started his fascination with just making movies. And
Mm,
so it's just but the point I'm making with this is I think it's so rare that somebody under, let's just say 10 years old actually has any idea what they want to do with their life. So to
mm.
actually be kind of, I mean, it's obviously not all luck or like, but it's somewhat, it's like being blessed. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like
I
to
definitely,
actually have, to have an idea of
yeah.
what you do. Most people don't know that for their whole life. Like
Well,
that's kind
I definitely find that more and more now with you know, the the younger people out there that I speak to who are still in school, and I talk to them. I say, what do you want to do when you finish school? And none of them have any idea. Like it's you're right, it's rare, and I think it's getting
of,
rare and maybe that's, I don't know. I know I've been thinking about what it comes down to, but yeah, I just always knew that I wanted to entertain people and tell stories. But to be honest, before I had my mind and heart set on um being a storyteller, there's a video actually of me. It's like I must have been like, I mean, yeah, it's before I saw Star Wars. Maybe I was the same age. I was 6, but me saying I wanted to be a scientist, and apparently, according to my parents, that was the first thing I wanted to
Oh,
do
wow.
when I was a kid. Is I wanted to be a scientist, and then after that, it was like I wanted to be a football, soccer player. And then I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, um, filmmaker, actor, entertainer came third after scientist and footballer.
Wow, that's cool. And I mean, I would say still like scientist is, I mean, that's definitely still on the creative spectrum, right? I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
creative.
it's true. Yeah, it's a good point. I think you need to be able to have abstract thinking and to have critical thinking yeah, of course, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's true. And I think, yeah, before, I mean, I was reading like books like from young, like when I was a kid, and I remember getting this encyclopedia when I was like super small, and just going through that and being really fascinated by astrology, yeah, astrology in space, and still am.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And so one question I want to ask, and then I want to get more like detailed into your work, but if somebody wanted to get into like the film industry, like what would you recommend? Because from the story you just told, it seems like you really started kind of I don't like to say bottom, but you like started at
Oh, you can say that. It's
yeah,
fair
like,
to say I started at the bottom for sure.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
didn't
like
have
you started in
any.
an
Yeah,
initial role. Yeah. And
yeah,
then you
like I
built your way up. Yeah.
yeah, definitely, because I didn't know anybody. I had no network. I wasn't from like a film family, or I didn't, I didn't inherit any contacts or anything like that. I had to really put myself out there online, cold calling and emailing, trying to connect with people, Facebook, LinkedIn, this is years ago. So, 10, 15 years ago. And in the beginning of those, kind of social media platforms, and then, hearing about different networking events and just, turning up, showing up and just handing out little business cards. I'm fresh out of school, or, I've dropped out of school. But it was, yeah, it was definitely a case of starting from scratch, zero to amass a network, and find like-minded people that wanted to, that there was synergy for collaboration. And the advice I always give is the same that I hear so many filmmakers give. Some of my whether it's Scorsese, Tarantino, these guys, they all say the same thing, and it's so true. If you want to be a filmmaker, go make films. It's as simple as that. I mean, I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody yesterday, and they asked me, well, how did you get the job directing Lucid? I said, I gave myself the job. I wrote the script. I had a story that I wanted to tell. So I hired myself. I went out and I made the film. Before that, it was the same with my first short film that I made before Lucid. So really, I think it comes down to, you know, you, all that you versus you stuff is true. And you have to take away all the excuses that you give yourself, those reasons why you haven't done it yet. Oh, well, I need to learn to walk before I can run, or, oh, why would I throw myself in the deep end? I need to let it. You never, the only time you ever see anyone thrive is when they come out of their comfort zone, right?
Yeah, it's true. And I think like I love what you said there because you didn't have any contacts or anything. So the reality is start from the bottom. And secondly, I mean, with technology we have today, you don't even need to go into the industry technically. I mean, we have YouTube, so you could
Yeah,
actually make your own film without having to go through Hollywood. It's
it's
like
true.
not, yeah, it's not really a gate.
You can find an audience, like for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So what was your let's talk, okay, so you worked your way up, and what was your first film? I mean, I know the answer.
Yeah, my first professional film
Yeah, yeah,
was The Window, and that was something that um I yeah, I mean, I had it was my first. I remember I turned 21, first time I'd gone to the States, to Vegas, and made I got lucky, beginner's luck on the slots and blackjack tables, and managed to actually come home with a bit of extra cash, as well
wow, that's
as
rare.
well as just spending money while I was out there and having fun.
Yeah.
And with that, and I remember there's a little like a tin that I had in my bag with notes that I came back and changed, and and yeah, I made the window like out my own pocket for like a couple grand, and it was enough to pay for equipment, to rent a load of, cinema lenses and camera and all the kit, and and the catering to make sure that everybody was fed for the 3 days that we took to shoot the film. Was so blessed to have an amazing group of friends that believed in me and the project and the story that I wanted to tell. And essentially it's kind of like a dark comedy, I guess. No, dark dramatic comedy. It's kind of hard to box it, but essentially it's like Sliding Doors meets Superbad. It's like a story about how fate and luck are connected, and a coin flip that separates two friends from getting into a house party and then turns to turmoil. All kind of boils down to this one climatic moment, and then the perspective shifts and we see how it could have all changed in a split second. So it's about windows of opportunity and
Wow.
alternative futures that could have been lived if not for like a micro decision that tips it one way or the other. And the inspiration for that was, when I lost my eyesight in 2009, I got diagnosed with this rare mitochondrial disease, which I still have because it's incurable at the moment to this day. But it's left me registered blind, and I always thought like, okay, what life path would I have been on if I hadn't have lost my eyesight and gone blind? And how different would things be? Very different, I'm sure. It's like the butterfly effect. Really, that was my
Yeah.
sort of my fascination with the butterfly effect, and yeah, so that was my first film, and like I say, I was only able to make that because I mean, we talk about network, but it was really just me and my friends coming together and all rolling our sleeves up, and and that turned out, it came out to be a cool film and played at festivals and won awards, and was a showcase for me.
Dude, that's incredible. Yeah, I think about that stuff too, actually, a lot, where it's like one small decision can change everything. I actually have a friend that I grew up with, and he's doing better now. This kind of, I guess, a little bit sad, but he's doing good now. But he started thinking about that so much that he got into his head so much that like he would like when he was walking, he would like think about which step to take because he would like fast forward and if you think about it, it can go to that level. Like you don't,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
helpful
Like
mentally.
like Jim Carrey in the number 23 or whatever that movie was, where you're just
Yeah, dude,
overthinking everything and second guessing. Yeah,
exactly. Because
yeah,
it's like, yeah, if I
paranoid.
move my right foot or left foot, everything from that point forward is different technically on which, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like every little thing changes the thing after that. So, but
Yeah.
you don't want to think about it that deeply, I don't think. But yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes. And
sometimes.
then
Yeah.
I swear, honestly, like there are
Yeah.
some days where I do
Yeah.
catch myself going, but if I use this hand to pick up this, it's just
Yeah. Dude, I've been
I can
there.
relate to that a little bit, but you have to rein it in, obviously, and go, "Whoa, hang on,
Yeah,
slow
for
down,
sure. For sure.
or take it easy."
Yeah, dude, but that's such so sliding doors and super bad mix. That's so
Yeah,
wild.
that's
That's awesome.
that's a crossover. I think it's the
Dude, that's
most accurate
cool.
sort of, yeah.
So okay, so that was your first one. So that this is okay. There's a lot of rarities in your life because so your first one had some success. That's probably pretty rare too. Like most people's first book or first film normally doesn't have success. I don't think normally. So your first one, so you're already like on a roll. And
Mm.
then when does Lucid come into play? Was that the second one or way down the road?
Yeah. Um, Lucid was, yeah, the next thing that I shot after the window, and it was, yeah,
Okay.
it was a few years trying to get that made because I was jumping from my first short to my first feature and
Yep.
length film, and I remember, some people around me were saying, "Oh, maybe you should make another short," keep you know honing your skills, or learning before dive into doing a feature length movie. And for somebody like me, it's just water off a duck's back because I don't need other people's opinions to justify the opinion or the feeling that I have inside myself when it comes to believing in my own capabilities, and having the confidence and the self-awareness to say, okay, everything I've done on the last thing, of course there's a massive learning curve. In every film you're always evolving as an artist, and you're always growing and learning new things. But I knew that the story I had for Lucid, I had the script, and after writing the script, I just knew that, and I even remember I tried condensing it into a short script, but the story was just so deep, and there was so much to play with in terms of the themes of reality and the journey that I wanted to take audiences and the character on. Yeah, I just was really dead set on doing it as a feature film, and yeah, it took a while to find the backing to get it made, but we got there in the end and we did it. And then even then though, after getting it in the can, it was yeah, it was tough trying to find a home for it. I mean, like you say, you can always just stick it on YouTube, but this was like, you know, even though it's still like, I guess, deemed a low budget indie film, a lot of money went into making Lucid. And I was, really fortunate to be working with some big stars on the film as well.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, and so of course, yeah, there's an added responsibility when you're making feature films compared to making shorts. And eventually, we found a good well, I mean, we were getting a good response on the film festival circuit. Audiences that were seeing it were really loving it. And something really strange actually happened. I remember we premiered at Edinburgh Film Festival, which, by the way, is the oldest film festival in the world. It's really cool. Fact, piece of trivia, because Cannes is, I think, the second oldest film festival in the world, and is only a year. I think they took like a year off during World War II, but Edinburgh didn't or something. It's been going, must be going like, I don't know, 80 something years now, whatever. But anyway, the screening, it was sold out. We were nominated for the Michael Powell Award, and it's a full house. We were getting great press. But mainly it's the audiences. I don't really care what the critics say, to be honest, because it can be
Yeah.
5 star in someone's mind and 1 star in someone else's mind. But as long as it leaves an impression and it stays with you, then I've done my job, and I'm happy. As long as it's a point of conversation as well. If it's creating some sort of a debate and people are, trying to pick it apart in some way or work something out about it, then that's fine. But yeah, the people that saw it at the screening, I guess, quite a few of them who because it was our first time showing it to an audience in that kind of setting at a festival.
Yeah.
See, a lot of these people are film people because they're industry people. We had like an extra sort of maybe almost like a 50 odd votes on the IMDb page of the film, and they were all like, I guess they were all like 9s and 10s, people that were voting, maybe some 8s as well, whatever. But so we had this like crazy high score on IMDb for a minute, where we were like up there with The Godfather and Shawshank Redemption. It was like an 8 point, I don't know,
Amazing.
8%. And the
Yeah.
same weird happened. Like the next day, it just came crashing down to like a 4. Like
Hmm.
and it wasn't even the next day. I remember it was like a week later almost or something, and it wasn't like after the screening, and there was just no way that there was that like delayed thing where all these people were going to do it. And then I found out a little secret, which is obviously IMDb is a very trusted place for movie lovers to see kind of average user scores on different films. And so when you have a kind of unacknowledged, or like an independent film like mine that suddenly makes it onto like the top 250 films of all time list, they have these bots that basically just bot accounts that just give it 1 1 1 1s just to bring it down, to try and like balance it out, to try and give
Really?
more credibility to, yeah, this is how it works. So it gives the site more credibility because you can't just have all these films that like these unknown, like just all of us become like an overnight success. That's not how the system works, or the platform. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's kind of strange, but whatever. I mean, for
That
me,
is
like I said,
strange.
it's
Yeah.
all about the audiences. And if and the people that have been in the screens, or people that have seen it and found it on Amazon, or seen it, or streamed on Amazon Prime, or wherever they found it or watched it. um they've always said that, like, whether it's their cup of tea or not, um that it left an impression on them, and it got them thinking, and it made them reflective afterwards. So I'm definitely happy about how the film turned out. And I'm just kind of focused now on making the next movie, and telling the next story that I'm passionate about. But that was a very personal film. It was like semi-autobiographical.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is about the power of dreams, right? And how dreams can change your life. And I still see in my dreams. I'm not blind when I'm lucid dreaming. I can still do things that I could only do before, pre 19 years old or whatever.
Dude, that's so crazy. I'm thinking about because as you know, I'm in the book space. So I'm thinking about with Amazon, they don't do like the bot thing, but if you are like a kind of unknown person and then you have a book that comes out and it gets a bunch of reviews really fast, they will, and I don't quote me on this, but it's like I've seen, let me just say to what I've seen. I don't know what they're doing, but I have seen them remove reviews. So they don't add 1 stars, but like a book will have like 100 reviews in the first week, and then Amazon will remove like 80% of them. And I
Mm.
don't know the reasoning behind it. Like I've heard because they think it's like your friend's family leaving it, and that's not a fair, that's like a biased review.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the same thing with IMDb. They just think, oh, this guy's just got all his friends and families to give it a 10. So we're going to
Yeah,
knock it down and, basically like punish you in a way for people liking the thing. And it's the same,
that's
I guess, with book
crazy.
reviews where it's
That's so
crazy.
weird though, because you got to think about it, like even famous authors, right? Like, yes, they'll get thousands of organic reviews, but they also like just because you're a famous movie maker or author, it doesn't mean your family isn't reviewing your stuff as well. Like,
Exactly.
so are they removing like Tony Robbins books reviews like of his, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking like that doesn't really make sense. I don't agree with that.
I know, man,
Um,
but it's
Weird.
the system and how it moderates
Yeah,
the
interesting.
users. And
Maybe
it's
we can find a better solution for that or something. I don't think they have the best solution out there.
yeah.
But interesting. Um, okay, so if you were, and I know you just described it, but just for people, because I highly recommend everybody listening to this goes and checks out Lucid. Like if
Oh,
you were to describe it like a short summary, how would you describe it to people?
it's a movie about a young guy who's isolated, living with social anxiety, and he, yeah, in a way, it's kind of like a Cinderella story for boys because he's, you know, looking out into the world from his apartment, kind of yearning for intimacy and wanting to put himself out there, but the fear has got a hold of him, and his neighbor catches him hiding from this other girl that lives in the building. The neighbor's played by Billy Zane, who turns out to be this really awesome therapist and dream doctor who teaches this kid about how to lucid dream. And so yeah, this boy uses dream therapy to reinvent himself essentially, and draw strength from dream memories. But we follow him into his subconscious mind at night where he starts to practice being social and also the art of seduction. And this girl that he's infatuated with in waking life,
Yeah.
a relationship begins to build with her, or at least his mind's projection of her. And then in waking life, yeah, he builds a relationship with the real her, but he starts to kind of become so dedicated to the practice of lucid dreaming and recording dream memories, writing them down, remembering them, and then the line between dream and reality begins to blur, and it gets trippy.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Honestly, man. It's so let me maybe I don't know if you could answer this in a short way or we don't have enough time. I don't know. It's up to you, but how if somebody were to just ask you how do you lucid dream? Like
Hmm.
how would you answer that? Because I don't know.
I would say watch the movie, honestly, because the movie,
Okay.
it's not, I mean, this isn't me just like trying to shamelessly plug more people to see it. It does, everybody that's seen it has, it does give you the sort of first step takeaway in how to get started. And
Yeah.
it's by no means a documentary on how to lucid dream. And even I remember when I was developing the screenplay, I was, the first draft was way longer. And it's because I had so many um little bit of things in there the Elliot's character was teaching Zell all these, the kind of step 2, 3, all these different techniques, and it was going in that direction. I had to kind of yeah, you know look at it and go, no, this isn't what this is about. This is meant to be a character story and a character study film, a coming of age, and it can't become too much about the practice of lucid dreaming, although that is like the catalyst for how this kid turns his life around. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do get, like I say, the first step in how to do it, which is to basically when you because a lot of people have their first lucid dream accidentally. That's how I had mine. I remember I was really young, and you know, usually what happens is your subconscious mind will like kind of eject you or kick you out. You wake up and you go, oh, that was weird. I just realized I was dreaming. And one of the first things you can do, or you should do, is try to look at your hands, because once you look at your hands and you can see your hands in the dream, step two, which isn't in the movie, which is like not a deleted scene, but an omitted scene from the earlier draft, is coin flipping. That's a really good device in being able to kind of get a handle on your subconscious, but also on the world, and being able to world build,
Mm.
calling that outcome, predicting the the heads or tail flip, and yeah, when you wake up, the most important thing really is to write everything down, because usually dreams are dumped in short-term dream memories are dumped in your short-term memory, and they're forgotten, because they're not deemed to be vital information. They're not important to us. um and well, you know, that's kind of like the default process of our brain. But if you the more you and it's just logical, right? The more you if you wake up every morning, or you can take it a step further, and you know, alarm yourself out of REM cycles every kind of 90 minutes, or every hour and a half, every 2 hours in the night, like, so like, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a night while you're sleeping. And then every time you get alarmed out of that REM cycle, and you remember any pictures, any thing you've seen, anything from the dream, just write all that down next to your bed, go back to sleep, do it again. And then basically you're training your brain to commit dream memories to your long term, because they go, oh, these are important, we keep writing these down, these dreams must mean something. And that's your brain then figuring out, kind of self learning, to commit them to long term memory. And then the more you do that, then when you're in that state of hypnagogia, between kind of like, we get that sleep twitch where you're about, just as you're dozing off, whatever you're thinking about can end up being like the place where you go to. And then you can sort of induce that as a lot as well, and incept yourself with what the dream is going to entail, or at least a jumping off point, or where you want to start. And then obviously you can, like I say, go world building, and control it from there.
How often do you lucid dream?
I used to a lot, and that's why I was so passionate about this story and writing this film, because I was lucid dreaming all the time at one point. And it kind of happened to me where I was starting to, because obviously the dreams are so real sometimes. And then
Yeah.
what happens is, when you remember dream memories with the same clarity as real memories, you confuse things that happen in waking life to things that never really happened. And that was happening at one point for me, where I was like, hang on, did I have that conversation, or was that in the dream? And it
That
becomes a little trippy. Yeah. And so I had to like catch myself a bit, to go, you're going a bit too far, like, chill on the lucid dreaming.
yeah, that's so awesome though. What are and I think it's kind of obvious, but maybe I'm wrong. That's why I want to ask, is like, what are the benefits of lucid dreaming?
I think the benefits that you see in the movie, I think, are the best benefits anybody can take away from lucid dreaming. I mean, you know, we can get super deep and start talking about you know, astro traveling and all that kind of stuff, but it's probably going to, you know, veer off into a conversation just about that, and that we can go all day on that. We can go all day and all night on that, probably. But
Yeah, we'll do
you know,
another one on
yeah,
that.
I think the
Part
next time
two.
we'll do one about astro traveling and dreams, that kind of stuff. And you know,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, transitioning the different planes of consciousness, and but
Yeah.
but I think with lucid dreaming is like a real practical thing that is, you know, universally agreed on. No one can deny, you know, that it's the how cathartic it can be to, like Billy Zane says in the movie, right? Things aren't so scary the second time around. After you've done something once, you realize, oh, I can do this. You can do it again. So
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as that, really. Like, you know, in the case of Zell in the film, he's scared of he's anxious about human interaction, especially with the opposite sex. And so, you know, after he's, you know, had the conversation once in a dream, the next day he sees the person, he's, oh, okay, you know, it's like muscle memory, you know. You kind of desensitize somewhat, because it's just, you know, rinse and repeat. And so I think, you know, if somebody's, you know, I don't know, if you're like pitching a new business, you're trying to get, you know, you've got a startup, or you're going to sit down with some investors, and you want to be on your A game. Well, maybe lucid dream the scenario and play it out in your mind a few times so that you can really, sharpen up how it's going to go down. And at the same time, you could be argued that you're actually manifesting that outcome with precognition from those dreams as well. But if you're an athlete and you're preparing for a game or a final and you're about to get on the court or the field or whatever, I've heard about players doing this, where they dream it, what they exactly how the play or what they're going to do, and then so be it, that's what happens on the day, and it's magic.
Dude, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Number one is like confidence building. But I didn't think about it as deep as you just presented, because the reason it's confidence building is, like you said, like you've already, or it feels like you've already lived the experience. So it's way less scary. Like if you're gonna, dude, this would be perfect for like public speakers or people that want to be public speakers. Like before, because I think I heard a stat that like public speaking is the number one fear of
Yeah, I
people.
heard that.
Like it's
Yeah,
like more than like dying. Like it's like literally the highest fear in the world. Uh,
crazy. Yeah, I don't relate, but I mean, if that's a
yeah.
thing, I heard that as well. Yeah.
So it's like,
But,
okay, if that's the case, then like if you have a speech, then you could lucid dream it beforehand, and then when you go up there, you're like, I already did this.
yeah, and I think most importantly, it's not just about how you perform in the dream. It's also about um having a precognition of the reaction that you're going to get for how you perform, and envisioning raptures of applause and people really digging it and vibing with whatever you're presenting or pitching or performing or saying, speaking, and that way, like you say, it's confidence building, and that's the biggest part, really. Like if you have confidence, then you have the belief. It's the thought meeting the feeling. It's the two in the
Yeah.
one. And if somebody was to ask me, like, what is lucid about in one word, if you ever asked me that question, I wouldn't even say dreams. I would say what you just said, confidence. That is what I think the movie's about.
Dude, that's sick.
So it's interesting to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what as I was listening to you, I was like, yeah, confidence, that's
Yeah.
what it, okay, so then let's talk about now where you're at. So when did Lucid come out again? That was a couple years ago, right?
2020, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Which could, I mean, could have been a blessing in disguise, because although I shot and framed Lucid for the big screen, and it plays really beautifully in cinemas and theaters, but obviously with it coming out in 2020, there were no theaters open.
Sure.
All the cinemas were closed down because of lockdowns and the pandemic. But
Yeah.
I think maybe it was a win for the best, because when an indie film like Lucid comes out, it's against, Star Wars, Marvel films, and all these big blockbuster popcorn flicks that obviously smash the box office numbers, and then you're judged against them. So if you don't do the numbers, you could be doing a flop or whatever. But when you get a release on a streamer like we did with Amazon, I mean, you're not judged on box office. You know, people just say
Yeah.
what they want about the movie. But yeah, it came out 2020, yeah.
How does that and then I want to talk about your latest short film, but how does that work? Like, is Amazon Prime for movies like similar to books, where like can anybody upload a movie on there, or is there like an approval?
I think you need to have an aggregator or a distributor, unless you're doing like, unless you're an Amazon original, or they've kind of white label acquisitioned
Okay.
global rights. But otherwise, yeah, it has to be through a kind of like another sales company or whatever. Yeah,
Oh, and actually that makes sense. I'm just realizing, because if not, like everybody on YouTube would just re-upload their videos onto Amazon.
exactly.
That would
Yeah,
make that place crazy.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, there's got to be a gatekeeper in there or something.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. Now, what is your latest, the one that you sent me earlier, which sadly I didn't have a chance to see it yet, but tonight I am going to watch it.
Oh,
Tell
cool.
us about your latest short film.
Yeah, that's a film that was directed by my partner Julia. It's her debut short, and it's a super strong debut, better than my first short. And I'm not just saying that because I'm genuinely like really yeah, proud, and just like I think everybody that worked on it was super impressed when they saw how it came out, because you never know, when you're on set and you're and you're there on the day shooting, you know, even if there's a good feeling and, you know, it looks nice on the monitor and everything, you just never know how it's going to come out. And
Yeah.
I, you know, I wrote the script years before, and actually this came about during lockdown, where Julia, you know, she had wanted to be a film director since she was 12 years old, and you know, she's been you know, she's been busy doing other things, you know, being an actress and a producer and a choreographer, a stylist, and a photographer, and many other things. But when when the world was kind of standing still for a minute, and you know, we had our feature films that we were developing on, well, we were still developing them, but you know, there was no chance of getting any feature movies into production because of COVID. We were like, well, we could just go make a short. And Julia was like, yeah, I'll direct it. And she was like, why don't you act in it? You know, because acting was always my, you know, ambition. And I had taken a long break from acting after losing my eyesight in 2009. I didn't think it was possible to be an actor because I didn't have any reference points out there of other blind performers at the level that I aspired to be at least anyway. And so um, when I yeah, and Julia, you know, she knew me and she wanted to make a showcase for me as an actor. And then she said, you know, she's like, I think you'd be a really good convict. You know, I can see you as a psychopath. You'd look, you know, I'm like, oh, well, convict. Yeah, I've got a prison drama. Let me dig that. And I'm, you know, pull out this screenplay, this short script that was written years before. And then we realized, wait, this is all about like isolation, mental health, and not and what how dangerous it is not to communicate when you isolate yourself mentally and emotionally as well as physically. And we were looking around us during lockdowns and pandemics, and that was happening everywhere. And it was just so serendipitous and ironic that it was way more relevant then, you know, to when it was first written years prior. So yeah,
Yeah.
we shot it, and yeah, like I said, you know, well, Julia wanted to make a showcase for me, but in the process, she's made a really great showcase for herself as a director, and it's essentially about a detained killer played by myself, who is being psychoanalyzed by a doctor, and yeah, the tables turn, and let's just say the doctor becomes the patient because we see that well, my character Max feels that there's trauma kind of bubbling under the surface of this guy and sniffs it out and tries to bring it out of him. But you know, this psychoanalyst doesn't want to address face his own demons, and yeah, we see a kind of first person kind of subjective view of exactly how you know, that how somebody can implode when all of this negative energy is stored and built up, and you know, you just keep harboring the same pain, and you don't release it or express yourself, and you don't talk to anybody, when you just hold everything inside and don't share, then yeah, it can get really ugly. And you see that in the film.
Oh, well now, damn, if I didn't have so many calls today, I would have been able to watch it. I am going to watch it tonight. I'm excited. Um, so here, I want to just last question for you. And I definitely think if you're down, I'd love to do a part two, and maybe part two, we can actually, maybe we'll do like 2 hours if you're down and really
Oh
get
yeah,
deep on stuff,
yeah,
because
definitely,
I know we could, yeah, we can go deeper. But
definitely.
this is a good start. That's cliffhanger
I
for
remember
people.
the first time when we were chatting on the phone, we
Yeah.
went deep 10 seconds in.
Dude, I know. That's why I'm thinking, I'm like, this interview is great, but I'm like, if we really want to give the people what they want, we got to do 2 hours. I think
Oh, well, if that's what they want, then
we gotta go Joe Rogan
I'm
style.
always down to give the people what they want.
But so last question for you is if there's anything like that we didn't talk about that you want to bring up, please do. And then let everybody know like how they can stay in contact, like socials, website, film, stuff like that.
No, thanks, man. Well, I think I mentioned Crystal Vision, didn't I? My foundation, yeah, that we
Yeah.
announced and we launched it in Cannes, and now we're, you know, looking for, you know, donations and donors to come forward for us to have the resources to scale the organization, onboard more members, and help more people. Um, and the website is yeah, Crystal Vision Foundation.com. If people want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at the Morse Force. I'm, you know, pretty approachable, and if somebody wants to collaborate or just even have some advice on how to navigate their own path, I'm always happy to, help however I can. Um, and let me think. Oh well, if anybody listening to this is based in the UK or can make it to London, October, I want to say 24, I think the date is. But if you hold tight and stay tuned for details on the Little Venice Film Festival, it's going to be the inaugural festival. It's going to be, yeah, in Notting Hill in London, and Suppression is going to be screening there, so that's going to be exciting. And yeah, chance to celebrate the film, show it to a new audience as well.
That's awesome, man. Dude, thank you again.